Hi, my name is Sarah Trouble. I'm the founder and CEO of the Job Applicant Perspective, the first anonymous user reviews for job ads across the US. This is a level of go-to-market awareness, as well as a public service for anybody lost in the gaslighting and the fog in the labor market. I hope by the end of this, I will have convinced you about what the labor market actually is and maybe inspired you to stop by the Job Applicant Perspective. But either way, you deserve to know what you're looking at. But trust infrastructure is what we need. So, this comes from a blog on Substack. These are being read by economists and journalists from across country, and I want to make this wider known. A market for lemons, the three roles of online job seekers, labor market economics for the layperson, from help wanted to hiring platforms. Not long ago, job seekers opened the newspaper to a clean column of job ads. It wasn't perfect, but the assumption was straightforward. If you weren't employed, you were a failed employee. Maybe the logic was blunt. Unemployment was framed as a personal failing, a sign of mismatched skills, or poor preparation. But when hiring moved online, this simple framework shattered. The job seeker's inherent role as a consumer was stripped of its protections, and a new parasitic role was invented. Ignored by both policy and economics, that change quietly broke the foundation of our economic system. Who this is for? Job seekers who feel blame for unemployment without realizing the market is designed to strip protections and monetize the struggle. Employers who assume no complaints means everything's fine without seeing how platforms profit from wasted applications in turn. Researchers and policymakers who cling to outdated failed employee frames and overlook structural consumer and revenue dynamics. Economists who need to expand labor models to include consumer rights and incentive structures, not just skill supply. Platform builders and investors who miss that inefficiency isn't a bug in the system, it's the business model. Number one, the job seeker as failed employee, the old lens. This is the traditional frame. Historical context: in the newspaper era, ads were limited and curated. Long-term unemployment was explained through human capital theory, lack of training and flexibility, and personal shortcomings. Policy impact: governments and academics largely operated in this paradigm. Fixing unemployment meant fixing the worker, retraining, credentialing, improving resumes, etc. This lens still dominates today. Many economists and policymakers continue to interpret joblessness as a human failure. It might be called skills mismatch in conventional terms. This is certainly still relevant, but in an online labor market, this view is wildly incomplete. It sees individuals, but not the system surrounding them. Number two, the job seeker as unprotected consumer lost safeguards online. When hiring moved online, the consumer protections vanished. In the newspaper era, job posts were fewer, curated, and paid, restricted, but real. The newspaper lost money for misleading the U.S. labor force because their business model ran on trust. Online platforms never promised trust, only reach. They blew apart the safeguards. Ghost jobs, duplicate listings, scams, and endless evergreen posts flooded the market. The results: a textbook case of George Akerlof's market for lemons. An Econ 101 level error has plagued our national economy in growing severity. And let's be real, it's the global economy too. It's not like LinkedIn exists and indeed exists only in the US. Job seekers cannot tell good postings from bad, yet have no choice but to play. Unlike almost every other marketplace, they have no right to review, warn, or hold sellers accountable. Why does this persist? Because inefficiency is profitable. Platforms like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Workday, and Greenhouse monetize engagement, not hires. Volume, churn, and repeat applications pay. Resolution does not. Misleading the U.S. labor force is commercially rewarding because clickbait is rewarding on all online platforms. Ghost jobs are the job platform's version of funny cat videos, and ghosting is the talent recruiter version of babies laughing. As long as you're still stuck in engagement, you're profitable. As soon as you get hired, not so much. Employers conditioned by platform logic often create the dysfunction themselves. Surveys show nearly 1 in 3 admit to posting ghost jobs, and over 80% of recruiters have done so. I will put links in the description here for some of my stats where they're coming from. A single evergreen post might save a company on marketing costs, but at scale, it becomes market pollution. Employer entitlement, which I outline in other articles, generates the very clickbait that is tanking the signal layer of the U.S. economy that their own business relies on to function. What looks like inefficiency is, in fact, the business model of online hiring. Essentially, the newspaper sold trust, so it was a neutral platform where someone trying to get resolution, aka a job to pay their bills, and talent, aka a job to make talent to get profit, could find there. Since the online platforms aren't selling resolution, they're selling engagement. Engagement for job seekers is engagement for employers. An engagement trap for one side is an engagement trap for the other. It's the world's most technologically advanced, most unethical magic claw machine, by and large. Number 3, the job seeker as unpaid revenue driver, the hidden modern role, aka unprotected consumer, is an unpaid revenue driver in the online era. This is the most invisible and most damaging role. Every click, resume upload, and application generates ad impressions, data points, and upsells. Platforms monetize churn, not resolutions. A job seeker who applies 500 times without being hired is far more profitable than one who applies once and lands a job. Revenue flows from resurface fees, sponsored posts, premium subscriptions, and data harvesting, all fueled by job seeker activity. Side note, I really do think we should investigate the growth of the gig economy in terms of churn and platform engagement from this direction, and wonder how much of that is driven by this kind of market incentive. The paradox is stark. The less likely you are to be hired, the more valuable you become to the platform, because rent, food, it's not something you can opt out of. Being hired, like I said, on resume 600 is far more profitable for the entire industry than resume 5. No one loses money except for the labor force and employers, but the social standing only is lost by the labor force because the norm of the lazy job seeker holds. This shifts the labor market's center of gravity. Job seekers are no longer simply workers in transition. They are the raw material of platform revenue models. Every wasted hour is monetized. Every failure to become a business, to connect, becomes a business asset. I don't know how to say this more clearly. This affects 160 million people, their access to employment, and therefore their access to housing, healthcare, and economic stability. Economic precarity at this scale has civic consequences. The question isn't whether the pattern exists. The fiscal data and labor statistics make it easily visible. The question is, what changes when we realign the incentives? Check out the job applicant perspective. So what do? That's why I built the first anonymous crowdsourced hiring reputation system at the job applicant perspective. Consider it Yelp in a world of professionally mandated fine dining, with no health department and no FDA, no requirement that anything on the menu has to exist, that even if it did exist, that it should have to get served to the U.S. job seeker. Guys, this is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous decision. Why are we doing this? This is silly. You should stop by job applicant perspective and share your insights learned from others. We are designed to restore dignity, counter the failed employee stigma by surfacing structural patterns and shifting blame away from individuals. Protect consumers. Job seekers protect other job seekers. We create the honeymoon together. If you're into K-pop Demon Hunters, my daughter is. I am. Who am I kidding? It was great. Protect consumers, enable reviews of job ads and hiring processes, flagging ghost jobs, scams, and broken funnels, realign revenue, build profitability models tied to successful hires, not wasted churn. Trust creates a market that will drive resolution, not engagement. Lack of it doesn't. By rebuilding protections across all three roles, TCHAT moves the labor market towards coherence, where platforms no longer thrive on inefficiency, but on genuine connection. Conclusion, a three-role market failure, the harm of the online labor market is not just inefficiency. It is a societal-wide misframing of what a job seeker is. As long as we view job seekers not only as failed employees, we will misdiagnose the problem, recognizing them as unprotected consumers and unpaid revenue drivers reveals the full market failure. The scope of how profoundly unethical this labor market is cannot be understated. Real solutions must address all three roles: dignity, consumer rights, and incentive realignment. Without this, the platforms will continue to profit from dysfunction while the U.S. labor force carries the cost. I have a check out the research section. I have white papers posted on SSRN, OSF, and Zenito. The job applicant perspective exists to realign these roles because the labor market that thrives on dysfunction isn't just inefficient, it's unsustainable. For data that demonstrates this market folly at the heart of the foundation of modern capitalism, you can check out, I have a link with Resume Builder. 30% of companies currently maintain active ghost listings. In recruitment surveys, Davro found that as many as 81% of recruiters admit to posting ghost reels. Over a third say up to 25% of their posts might be fake. The U.S. hiring rate has barely moved, stuck between 3.5 to 4% for over a decade, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. LinkedIn's revenue skyrocketed during that time period from $240 million in 2010 to $16 billion by 2024. Indeed's revenue jumped from $777 million in 2015 to $5.7 billion in 2021, according to Recruit Holdings fiscal year reports. Recruit's fiscal year 2024 filings report had $5.8 billion US dollars in a single quarter. Yeah, so that's the argument. I really think you should stop by. Essentially, I'm going with it. We're shattering the silence. We're rising, defiant, shouting in the quiet. You're not alone. Stuff like that. It's meant to, job seeker voices, not only are they not something to be silenced, they are a goldmine of solutions, of agency, of capacity that can salvage these, salvage for everybody. For employers, you create essentially, starting out, a Yelp of the online hiring market, and you end with a Google Maps of the online hiring market. And you cut ghost jobs, scam jobs on that side. You cut resume spam. You cut talent shortages, and you save the main street that cannot find workers. You save tax bases and local economies. And you cut the scam artists, because it's not just employers behaving badly. I have a colleague, Jay Jones, has taken down over 6,000 recruiters, just one of whom on LinkedIn made $440,000 in 2024 by abusing affiliate marketing, taking real recruiter profiles, cloning them, and sending job seekers to get, who are just looking to improve their lives, to get their identity stolen. So I really think, if you think about it, Jacob Zinkula from Business Insider described it. A job seeker in the market for 9 years. If U.S. labor force is working for years at a time, making revenue for the talent industry, they're equivalent to a talent industry employee. They just don't have to get paid. No, I don't think so. So I hope you'll join me, because absolutely not. I don't think so. Yeah, we're pretty passionate here, but we're right. So staying out there. The gaslighting is strong, but we're stronger, and we've done tough things before.